It is with great pleasure that I am going to share something about the ancient ones, something that helps to reconnect with them again, because we have lost over time the connection with them. And in a sense, I can call this a path of learning to live in harmony with the elements of Gaia, because the ancient ones are the guardians of the elements of Gaia. So I speak on behalf of Metaphysical Ecology, which is supported by the Universal Center for Metaphysical Ecology, a non-profit organization. I have also to say from the very beginning that I am, I would say, a little bit uncertain about certain things, because there is so much I do not know about the ancient ones, but they have asked me to share that what I do know, because they hope that more people will literally reconnect with them. From my perspective, the Earth, and you can call that Mother Earth, or you can call it Gaia, is central to everything. What I mean with central is it's the Earth that is holding all the information for all life on it. So the key is that we need to be part of all life that is taking care of Mother Earth so that she can take care of us. In other words, the Earth needs to be central, not humanity. And we have the tendency to place humanity and its needs in the center, forgetting that all the needs will be fulfilled if we place Mother Earth in the center. Studying the Earth is therefore very important, and there are many, many energies that are existing. And they exist in the form of vortexes, lines, and these lines form grid systems. I think it's one of the key elements is to understand those energies, because we live in it. We live in it day in, day out. We are affected by it every moment of our lives, and we are, at least most people, are not aware of them. We have forgotten about them. And in a sense, that is part of forgetting that we are part of Mother Earth, that Mother Earth provides all the energies that we need. So we need to go back to reconnecting with the Mother in order to reconnect with the elements and the ancients that are the guardians of it. I know this is a rather complicated flow diagram, but it actually tells some basic things that are important to understand what we are going to talk about. So Mother Earth, and maybe it's actually better to say Gaia, which means Mother Earth, and the consciousness connected with her has an information system. And that information system we begin to call more generally now the morphogenetic system. That's the second part that you see. The morphogenetic system is the system that holds the information for the existence of the planet and everything that lives on it. And that system is co-determined, or needs to fit in, or needs to be in alignment in the morphogenetic system of the solar system. And you can say that the solar system is part of the galaxy, and the galaxy is part of the universe. So all those information systems that determine the existence of systems need to be in harmony with each other and have a certain hierarchy. So within the system of Mother Earth, there are 12 different systems. And I put the star nations here because there are many portals that in one way or another affect or can affect the morphogenetic system, Mother Earth, directly, or even have an effect on us, the co-creators. But let's first go to that system. That system has 12 fields. Or if you want to see the morphogenetic system as one field, 12 subfields. And also the subfields have a certain hierarchy because the highest is influencing everything under it. So the highest is the 12, and I call it crystalline energies, but even more correct would be the energies of the elements. And that affects us as co-creators, which is number 11 that you see here. And it affects all life, which are the levels 1 to 10. This system needs to work together in such a way that we increase the vibration, increase the expression of the potential in the morphogenetic system, so that the whole system evolves, goes into the state of ascension. So this is a very key description to understand almost anything on Earth. The morphogenetic system has as highest frequency the crystalline energies of the elements that influence and co-determines the quality of all life, including ours. So we, being co-creators, need to learn to work properly with the elements and properly with all other life on Earth. And I like to emphasize that it's not only what is physical, it's also what is non-physical or etheric or astral or subtle or whatever term people come up with. That's what we cannot see. They belong to all life, and the group of the ancient ones belong to the co-creators. So we need to include, to really bring the whole system to a higher vibration, to evolution, we need to include both the visible and the invisible or the subtle. So let's look at some aspects of those different systems. I mentioned already that the level 12 crystalline energies, or the elements, the energies of the elements, are there to support all life, including us. It's so important that I make a special statement so that you really can look at it and feel into that, feel into the importance. And those different levels have grid systems on Earth. That is how we can connect, and sometimes subconsciously do connect. What you see here is of this level 12 morphogenetic grid, which belongs to the field. You see a vortex on that one. This vortex gives you access in that full potential, something that we need to learn, something that we need to learn in such a way that we can again connect with those energies and use that what we need to use for our function here on this planet. Yes, this is a beautiful picture, but that's not the key. The key is to focus on that what's in the circle. That is the center. And if you focus on that, you can, whether you feel it or not, connect with the energies. You can do that as easy through the picture as being on the spot. So for a moment, simply look at the picture and allow the energies to come to you in such a way that you can open yourselves for that which you need in this moment from that particular energy field. So sit for a moment looking at this image. Whether you have felt something or not, believe me, you made a connection. So let's go now to level 11, that of the co-creators. So the co-creators are here to support the evolution of Gaia, of Mother Earth. Straightforward, clear statement. Are here to support the evolution of Gaia. But they can only do that through creating with all other life on Earth, because all of that functions within the morphogenetic system of Gaia. The co-creators, and I made a little list here, are the ancient ones that we are going to talk about within this presentation, us humans, the She, the inner Earth people, and a few other human groups like the Blue Race, and some call it the Master Race. Not really important for this presentation. Other people will talk about the she. My way of looking at the she is slightly different than that of most others, not contradictory, but more additional. And originally I was supposed to give also a presentation on the she, but that is now, let's say, for the future. Of this whole list, only the humans are the ones we can see. Well, it's a little bit tricky because, and we will talk about that, the humans are also existing in an other state in which we cannot see them. Well, in fact, the she are humans, the inner people are humans, and the other are also human groups, and we don't see them because they live in different worlds, or you can say are out of phase with us. So it's a little bit interesting that we, in this world, and I will come to what that means, in this world, are actually trying to connect with beings that we cannot see. Some of them being, you can say, our relatives. Some, the ancient ones, are there way before us. And we are searching for finding how to communicate with them because we can't see them. And that is part of, you can say, the work of those that work with fairies and she and nature spirit, those who are opening themselves for the subtle worlds, and I include, of course, the dragons and the unicorns into that as well. And this is a vortex of the grid of the level 11. This is holding the information that we need as human co-creators in this world. So it's only a part of what we really need. That's why it's always important when you connect with these kind of energies that you always set also the intent that you only take out that what is optimal for you and your journey. Don't take in more than you need. It's a waste of energy and can be even counterproductive. So again, focus on the circle, on the energies connected with it, and see whether something happens to you, whether you are aware or feel something. Okay, again, trust that you made a connection. Trust that even though you may not be conscious of it, that what you needed in this moment will be taken in. So let's go now to the ancient ones and start with the statement, they were here from the very beginning. At the moment that the elements were formed on this planet, they were there. Meaning, they were here way before us. From the very beginning, the very, very beginning. And this is one of those vortexes. Forget what is next to it because I took it out of my research information. This is one of the vortexes of one of the ancient groups. And we're not going this time to open ourselves up for it because we do that later. But realize that every species, every type of being has a grid system, and that through the grid systems you can learn more about them, and that can be the basis of reconnection. Yes, I'm very aware that not everyone can find those spots, and that's why those that can find them should share that with others so that people can more easily be supported in their reconnecting with the ancient ones. There are grid systems for us human beings as well. There are grid systems for the she. That's how I look and study the she and their frequencies and their consciousness, because everyone has this kind of vortexes as part of the grid that helps us to tap directly into the information system, the morphogenetic system. So I mentioned already that the ancient ones are the caretakers of the elements. The elements, that doesn't mean they are not the caretakers of the elemental powers. And I will explain that. The caretakers of the elemental powers are the dragons, or dragon-like beings. I wrote a whole book about the dragons and how they as caretakers help us to connect with the elemental powers which we need for our creation. Every being that is a co-creator works with the elemental powers. But besides the elemental powers, they help to create the elements. So we use the same names for elements and elemental powers: fire, water, air, earth, and the fifth one called ether, with AE. That is confusing, and that's why a lot of people are confused. So they talk about the elements, but often describe it in terms of elemental powers, or they talk about elemental powers and they describe it in terms of elements. It's not very surprising that it happens, but it is not correct and leads to more confusion than to solutions. An element is the manifestation of elemental powers. But to manifest an element, you need all four elemental powers. You need fire, water, air, and earth. Only then you can have drinkable water, or a stone to touch, or the air to feel, or the fire to warm yourself, or to stimulate you into action. And this is an important point. As I said, there's a lot of confusion about that. And that's why, we work sometimes with a mixture of powers and elements, and that means we do not understand either one in a pure form, so that we also cannot use them or be supported by them in a pure form. So in our world, in our reality, we work with all four elements all the time and realize that all life depends on them. So they are key. And so that's why it's important, in order to learn those elements, to also work with their guardians or caretakers, the ancient ones. So all four elements are determined by the level 12 morphogenetic system. And they all are determined by energies that are crystalline in nature. It's one of the things that still confuses me in some ways, because I still have difficulty to wrap my mind around the idea that air is a crystalline system. It's much easier with water, of course, because we know that water can become a snowflake or can become ice, and then we say, oh yeah, that's crystalline in nature. But that crystalline in nature seems to be spread out even in the other two elements, and then it's more difficult for us to understand that. But there is no doubt that the four elements interact dynamically, and they even transmute into each other. And again, water is still the most easy to use example, because water we know as solid, ice, we know it as fluid, water, we know it as water vapor, gaseous. So we know it basically as at least three of the elements. But it also is energy, or holds energy, or is the potential for energy, which is the fourth one. So every living being, including us, needs the four elements, or we can't be alive. We can't be healthy. And therefore it's important to connect and collaborate with the ancient ones, so that we can use it more optimally. We live actually a very short life, and we can extend that life by understanding our information system, but also understanding all systems that support us in being as optimally functional as possible. If there is one way to easily explain that we need four elements, is when we look at our system. We are solid, we have solid material, at least we look solid. We have a lot of water inside of us. We are totally in need of oxygen and breathe out carbon dioxide. So there is this gaseous state, the air state, and we need energy or we are not alive. So we are all the time working with the four elements, and we know that in our system they are continually supporting each other and supporting each other's mutation. So it would be strange if we would not learn to work with those that can give us that information, the ancient ones. And in the past we could that. Now we have lost it, but we're invited to reconnect again. I'd like to explain something very basic because this is important for understanding the four groups of guardians of the four elements. There is, before anything was ever created, manifested, whatever you want to call it, a field of infinite potential. Still, that field of infinite potential is there, but within that infinite potential field, manifestation, creation has taken place. And in order to do so, it means that that infinite potential, which also you can call infinite consciousness, needs to become into the state that it is consciousness. Knowing its consciousness is the moment that the all, the one, the creator, the source, that is at that moment that it came into existence. And at the moment that it existed and became aware that it was existed, we created duality. Duality is me versus there. You know, me, the one who knows that I'm conscious and also knows that the outside there is something that is not yet conscious. The ones that I am and I am not. The one that also can see himself and becomes the observer. But in it is already the Physica Pisces, the beginning of the Trinity that you see here. And in a sense, duality is not stable because it always seeks a balance, and the balance is always the third one. And then we come to the three mother elemental powers. It's a kind of Trinity, and in that sense, again, a form of oneness. That Trinity, the three elemental powers, which we call fire, water, air, exist as energy in everything in creation. In fact, you can create with those three only. You can actually create with the first two. But then it's not alive. You need the third one, the air, it's like the breath of the creator to make things alive. And if you want to manifest that, you need to create the fourth. And the fourth came forth out of the three. And that created the four elemental powers as we know it. So this exists on every level of consciousness, every level of existence, every level of vibration, because it's an inherent part of the first step from the infinite state of potential to manifestation, creation, if you want. Now on Earth, it creates the four elements, and here we have the names of the four caretakers of the elements. Well, the Devas is very, very clear. Most people know about the Devas, and many people at least talk about them. The name Djinn is maybe familiar, but it is very deformed. We need to get a negative connotation out of it, but they are the guardians of the element of fire. And there were no real names of the guardians of water and air. So their names, as far as I understand, translate, and this is what I decided to use, for water the Fluidians and for air the Aaronians. Easy to remember, whether it's correct or not. As far as I understand, it comes the closest to their names. So what I have done is actually a slight extension of the previous one. I put Gaia in between here, but also help you to understand that there are overseers of each of the elements. These are extremely powerful beings and not easy to connect with, because if you can't connect with the beings that are the actual guardians, there's no way you can connect with the overseer. The easiest, again, is the one that you can call the Earth, the overseer of the whole planet, the Earth Deva, or the Gaia Deva. Very, very powerful being. I have only met the overseer of the fire. I call him jokingly the Super Djinn. I have never really had contact with the other two overseers. I know they are there, but they're beyond me in this moment, in this phase of my life. So in order to understand their function, their role, and the diversity within the ancient ones, we need to look first at human consciousness, because that is helping us to understand the earth and the four worlds better. I call the very first souls that came to earth, I call them the founders. The founders were actually way beyond. What I mean with way beyond is their consciousness was actually not integrated really into the earth system, in the Gaia system. And they were there in order to see how to become co-creators when Gaia was ready for additional co-creators with a different functions than the ancient ones. So the souls that came realized, wow, the earth has 4 energy bodies, and our energy is not even matching with the highest frequency, the spiritual body of the earth. So we need, in order to be part of all aspects of earth, we need to go down in frequency of our consciousness. This is basically unnatural. The tendency of everything is to expand, not to diminish itself. So it was a conscious choice. And in order to do that, they created 12 levels of consciousness that are literally present as grids. And anyone who can dowse can find them. And they, I don't know how that exactly worked, of course, but in one way or another, those 12 levels were used in the 4 different energy bodies of the mother. The spiritual body, the mental body, the emotional body, and the physical body. So over time, first they were living in the first world, spiritual body of the earth dominated by fire. And at a certain moment it was time to go down in vibration and move into the second world, that is living in the mental body of the earth, and that is dominated by the elemental power of water. That is the time of the, you could say, Lemuria, Mu, motherland, but in current times, the ones that live there are the She and the Inner Earth people. And the same is true in the third world. There are a different group of She and Inner Earth people that live in the third world, dominated by the elemental power of air, and they live actually in the energies of the emotional body of the earth. Well, the last 3 levels is the fourth world, and that's where we live, dominated by the elemental power of earth, and we live in the physical body of earth. That's why we are so physical oriented, and that's why we believe that we need to have things, something physical, in order to be safe. I'm not going into the details of that. This is to help you to understand that there are 4 bodies, because it's important to understand the ancient ones, because they function. For them, there is no real differences, other than that there are also, you can say, different fields for those functioning in the 4th, in the 3rd, in the 2nd, or in the 1st world. So because they function in all 4 worlds. But, and that's a very interesting thing, I found a 5th grid, and I was like, oh, what is that? It's the highest frequency. Yes, they are ready for the new world, the 5th world. It means that those 4 worlds need to work together in one way or another in such a way that a new world can be created. And we are living in a transition phase that's happening. And the best way to explain it is through the pyramid that you see here. The four worlds form the basis. As far as I understand, and I say that with some care, the first, the second, and the third world are more or less in balance. But the fourth world, our world, is a mess. I don't know how to say it nicer than that. It's simply a mess. So at this moment, there is a strong invitation from the other worlds to get our act together. Because if we cannot get our act together, the basis for the new fifth world is unstable, cannot be created. That is why all of us, all of the persons that are listening to this, are invited to contribute to bringing this fourth world, the one dominated by the elemental power of Earth, in such a way into balance that it can form an integrated part with the other three worlds as a foundation for the creation of the new one. Quite a job we have to do. But the signs that we are beginning to get it are obviously there. This is a different way to express that. In a sense, you can say each world is also a pyramid, with the four elements as the basis, and the center here, which is also the top of the pyramid, is actually ether. So we are searching for our ether, the balance within our system. And each of those worlds are. And when the four ethers are connected, we move into the next world. Exciting time. So let's go through the elements. Well, obviously we start with fire. Now, realize that we have the tendency, as soon as we talk about the element of fire, to see fire, flames, burning candle. But it is more than that, because fire is actually energy. It's a transmutation of energy and form, because it destroys and it induces. And it raises temperature. We need sometimes to raise temperatures of systems to bring them to a higher vibration. And that's a very important point, fire is also passion. Our passion is fire. How passionate are you about things in your life? How much fire do you use for that? Or are you burning up on trying to destroy your uniqueness by not fulfilling and following your guidance of your heart? The passion, so to speak, is raising your vibration so that you can destroy what's no longer yours and induce who you really are, transmuting everything on that way so that you have the energy to give form to your uniqueness. Very important power. And here we have the overseers and the 5 species. Now you understand why I needed this introduction, because we have 5 species of Jinn, and the earth one is the 4th, the air is the 3rd, the 2nd, and the first world guardians of the elements, and the ether is already the 5th. This is a rather basic way of forming for the ancient ones, with exceptions of the Devas, as we will see. The problem is that the Jinn are seen as negative, let me put it that way. They are seen as negative. They're seen as these horrible creatures that are doing all kinds of bad things to us, or they lure us in all kinds of things, the genie in the bottle. Well, the stories that are based on fear. The Jinn are not negative. It doesn't mean that they haven't done certain things that may make it understandable why there is a certain amount of fear for them. As far as I understand from them, what happens is the following. When humans begin to lose their contact with them, began to lose the contact with the earth, with their responsibility as co-creator, they began to destroy. And as soon as we start destroying, and we can, because this is a free will reality, the ancient ones couldn't do their job properly anymore. And they tried to give us signals, but we didn't listen anymore. So the Djinn, fiery as they are, decided to point out to us that our biggest problem was fear. So they induced and strengthened the fear with the idea, oh, now they will get it. Well, they didn't get it. They became more fearful, immediately, of course, put fingers to other beings, the Djinn, which got now a negative rep. So instead of having a solution, the Djinn created more problems. They are not the way they are depicted. They're powerful, beautiful beings who were, and that sounds very human-like, but in a sense, a bit desperate that we are not listening. The ones that created the problems were mostly the Earth Djinn, the one connected, of course, with our fourth world. Because in the other worlds, the collaboration is still existing to various degrees, of course. So this all played within our world, and there were only certain Djinns living, Earth Djinns in this world, that were trying to get our attention and created exactly the opposite. So here is, I use specifically a vortex of the Earth Djinn, because that is the Djinns that we are directly dealing with. We are not directly dealing with the Djinns of the other world. So, although the Djinns do not separate in the sense that they don't know, they still communicate with the ones in the other worlds, but we can't. So I have this particular image, and I will not spend much time, otherwise we don't have enough time to do at the end a meditation to connect with all four ancient groups. So it's just to show you again that the way to understand them is find the vortex of the grid systems that allow you to tap in their potential. And that is what this place is doing. And then by sitting on those places, learn to communicate. So let's move on and go to water. Water is very interesting, almost a magical element. It's essential for all life. No argument there, I think, from anybody. But a thing that is a little bit less known is it holds an unbelievable information. It's opening itself for receiving information. It's the symbol for receiving information. But not only does it receive information, it is able to make it available instantly, everywhere, within and between the different systems. That's a little bit more difficult to follow, because how can water do that? Well, there are all kinds of theories about that. Well, one of them is that basically they work with light, with packets of light, that photons that actually can move over distance very, very fast, but also have the aspect of quantum entanglement. So once it is connected, they always stay connected. I can't follow all the details. I don't know how it works. I know that it seems to work that way. But practically, I don't know. We don't know also is the basis of all creation on this planet, for sure. And we are even in embryo, we are in the fluids, in water. And it is dynamic and continuously changing, as I mentioned already earlier. So we go to the Fluidians. Again, 5 species, same story. Each of those species work in the different worlds. The one for the new world is already there, waiting till we finally get our act together. And here they are. I have worked with them, but I do not claim to know them. They are, for me, like water. They slip through my fingers, so to speak. But increasingly, the connection is improving. And it is an invitation to all of mankind to learn to connect with them again. And some people will connect more with the Fluidians, others more with the Iranians, others more with the Djinn, others more with the Devas, which is the most easy because we live in the world of the Devas, right? Okay, and also here a vortex, again of the Fluidians that belong to our world. Feel the energy quickly because we are not spending that long. And then we come to air. Air, well, in the first place, it provides all the gases that we need for life. You know, oxygen and carbon dioxide. I'm not talking about only our lives. We are not that important. All life. So some need carbon dioxide, some need oxygen. There are even some that need nitrogen, but we're not going there. It is basically providing all the gases that are needed for life. And it also holds life force. Part of the life force we get through plants, and indirectly sometimes also a part through animals for those who still do that. But the key thing is that a lot we get through breathing it in. And it transports gases and life force to all places on Earth. And that's an important point, because if you take a big city, in a big city there is more carbon dioxide, and it also shows that it is having that life force. And that life force, of course, is not very supportive. So it's the air that balances it all out, brings in fresh life force, changes the different gases so that we still can function everywhere in this world. And of course, again, the same situation for the Aronians, 5 species, very, very similar. So here again, the Earth aspect, those Aronians that are working and are the guardians in our world, the fourth world. Okay, and then we go to the Earth. Ah, that's very familiar, right? The rocks, the stones, the earth, the clay, the sand. That is what we can understand, we think. But we know it provides all the material that we need to create the many forms on Earth. Every living being is built up out of material from the Earth. Every atom in your body comes from the Earth. Directly or indirectly, doesn't matter, it comes from the Earth. And it forms the foundation within which we can all live, where we can all function. Is it more important than the other ones? No. But it is definitely in our fourth world seemingly more important than anything else, because we are so hooked on the physical material that we're willing to pollute all the other ones, disrupt all the other ones, in order to have material things, earth aspects. So we have in our world not only a dominance of earth for the last 200 years. The elemental power of earth was also the dominant elemental power, so that stimulated even more the need to have, and here we are. We have destroyed this planet to a pretty large degree, far more than most people realize. And I am not a doom thinker, but from an ecological perspective, oh yes. So the element of earth have as caretakers the Devas. So in the first instance, it seems that there's a pretty similar setup. And yes, there is. There are 5 main species. Yeah? Same way as the previous ones. And then there comes let's first look at the general one. And then we have here again an earth our world, Earth Deva. So this is the collective Earth Devic system. But it is more complicated. So you go now to the 4 elemental powers leading to the Earth Overseer, the Earth element overseer. And then when we go within that to the element of Earth, our world, then we see that there are far more species. Now, I don't want to make it too complicated because we can talk about this, of course, give a whole lecture only on the Devas and their role and their function. Because there are many different species within the Earth one, or maybe I should say subspecies. I don't care what term to really use. But ultimately, there are 36 groups. So the 12, fire, water, air, and earth, each have again a trinity, fire, water, air, and that each of those trinities has also a trinity. And that's what you see in the blocks here. So how do you define them? You need to look at fire, F, another fire, and then that has a fire. So there are 3 letters that determine a group of devas, and there are 36 of that. So you have fire, 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 water, fire, fire, air. And then you go, you have fire, water, fire, and so on. And that makes 36 groups. Of course, each of those groups have their own grid system. So you have this overseeing grids, and a grid above that, and then a morphogenetic system above that, and so on and so forth. But what we're actually, when we are looking at a object, live or made, that is independently functioning as a physical unit, as its own functioning, it will have a deva, and that deva belongs to one of the 36 groups. So that makes that this is far more complicated. This is from a book of Hudson, and I just take this as an expression of how somebody can see, in this case, a deva tree of the tree ferns. And you see here the 3 letters. This is how I have begun to define the devas. So this deva has water, fire, and earth. And here we see this impression of the deva of the Southern Pacific, and it's not so surprising that you have here a water, water, water deva. So you can do that actually for every plant and every animal. And I haven't done that, but I give a few examples. And in all honesty, I'm just at the very, very beginning of understanding devas. And this is something that is a collective work. More people are needed to really understand them. So this is a banana yucca, and what it's doing is it have a deva that is water, water, air. So interestingly, if you take another yucca species, this is the soap tree yucca, yucca elata, then you see it's the same type of deva, water, water, air. So related species of plants and animals have similar devas, or say deva from the same group. See, let me give you another example. This is the Arizona cypress, and this is water, air, air. And if you take now the juniper, the Utah juniper, you see again water, air, air, because they are sufficiently related, and then you get the same deva from the same group. And this is when I was working on the presentation, I made a picture of my computer because the computer has a deva. And what is it? It's an earth, air, air deva. I have a lot to learn, and I'm pretty sure many of you are like, what is he talking about? But this is very, very important to begin to get a grasp and to learn to work with them, by understanding that they're diverse. And this is for me important because I'm working a lot with crystalline energy. So I was curious how it was with the different stones and crystals. Well, not so surprising that when you have one of those stones, and this is called a menhir, this was in France, pictured many, many years ago, and look at the size of this stone in comparison to my little backpack. This deva is not so surprising, earth, earth, earth. I was expecting actually that when I was looking at a quartz crystal to see the same thing. That was not the case. Earth, earth, fire. So my next thought was, you see how minds can trick us into existing. I thought if you carve out of a quartz crystal a skull, which is nowadays quite popular, that must then have also earth, earth, and fire. Well, this skull Sam has earth, fire, air. I show you this to help you to understand there is a lot to learn. There's a lot we do not understand, a lot that I hope other people will jump on and help to understand on a deeper level. So we have a personal deva. We are, besides a spiritual unit, and as guardian we have an angel. We have also a physical unit, this physical body with an etheric and astral body connected with it, that has a deva. And this deva, and I still need to ponder a lot on this one, is water, air, earth. And I have made a meditation which is available as a video on the YouTube channel of Metaphysical Ecology. And I will recommend you to do that meditation. It's a meditation, short introduction and then a meditation. And it will really help you to connect with that beautiful being that is there to help you to take care of your physical system. And you can ask it to help you when you are not okay, but it will never invade your free will, so be clear about your messages. Don't give half messages. But I recommend to do this meditation with, let's say, some regularity, just to help you. So the ancient ones, the She, and the earth people, and many subtle beings invite us to go to higher vibrations, because then we will be able to communicate with them and learn also to work with the ancient ones through the four worlds. So that's where we are standing for. So I like to close this by doing a meditation where I use, again, vortexes of the four different groups of species, the four different guardians, the four different ancient ones. And I do that in one flow, and will shift the images as soon as I go to the next group. And you are free to stay open with open eyes and listen to me, but you can also close your eyes, and as soon as I switch, just to check on the image. Most important is that you first prepare. So prepare by taking a few deeper inhalations and exhalations to relax. If you want to connect, make sure you are as relaxed as you can be, so that your mind is less active and will less strongly influence your experiences. The mind tries to interpret everything, and that can be very disturbing. You need to move into your heart, and you can only do that when your mind calms down. So relax. Arrive in the place you're sitting as fully as possible. Forget about the rest. Just be. And in that state, bring now your awareness to your heart. And be aware that your heart has a brain that connects you directly with your spiritual essence. Your spiritual essence works through your heart. And it is safe to say that it actually is more or less concentrated in your heart. And that's why your heart is holding the light of your spiritual essence. And you can allow that light to expand. So in your imagination, see the light in your heart and allow that light to expand through your physical system, through the different energy bodies, so that your whole being is literally lightening up, is becoming enlightened. And the more you do this, the more light will shine through, and the more enlightened you become. Feel what's happening with you. And be aware that connected to this beautiful white light is another state of being, another energy if you want. Unconditional love. And now allow that unconditional love to flow totally to you. Set the intent that you choose to unconditionally love yourself, exactly as you are right now. With all the possible little judgments you may have, or maybe big judgments you may have, or things that you think are not good for you, try to the best of your ability to love it all. Because you are exactly where you need to be. You have the physical system that you need in order to express your unique gifts into this world. So there is nothing wrong with you. The only problem can be your mind. So replace the direction of your mind by the direction of your heart, helping you to love you exactly as you are. The more you love yourself, the easier it is to connect with whatever and whomever you choose to connect. The very first thing that is important to connect with is Mother Earth. Set now the intent that you connect with Mother Earth. Open yourself for her, because she loves you unconditionally and gives you everything that you need. Allow yourself to feel that. Allow yourself to open for that beautiful energy of her. And be aware that when you connect with her, it's much easier to connect with any other being that lives on her. And how difficult it may be in this time frame, but it is from the virus to the highest development, other human beings, the she, the ancient ones, all alive. It all has its function. We may not understand it, and we may think it disrupts things, but it is because of our way of living, not of theirs. Our misunderstanding, and not theirs. And what's missing is love. That's what connects everything with each other. And it is from this place that I invite you now to bring your awareness to the picture, to that spot, to that vortex, knowing that you now will be connected with the Djinn. It doesn't matter which world they belong to, because ultimately they all tap into the same field. And your intent is the following: and take out of that field of the Djinn Those energies that helps me to express who I am, help me to use the element, the power of the element of fire in the most optimal way in my life, in order to fulfill my purpose here. And now allow it to unfold for a moment. And even when you cannot feel the Jinn, trust that through your intent you are connected with them, and that those energies that are important for you are truly coming in. Now take again a deep breath, so that you are stepping out of this energy of the Jinn and are able to refocus. Bring in the picture, the next picture. This is the picture of a vortex of the Fluidians. Remind yourself that you are connected with your heart, with your spiritual essence, and with unconditional love. Realize that by connecting with the Jinn, you have already changed, you have already shifted. So it's good to reconnect again to your heart, to allow those energies now to be expressed in the love for yourself and the love for Mother Earth. And also contributing to the expansion of your light. And from all these connections and this place of love, now make connection with the energies of the vortex of the Fluidians in order to tap into their total morphogenetic field. And we set again the intent that we connect with those energies of that field that in this moment are the most optimal for you to work with in order to fulfill your role as co-creator. Express your uniqueness. Fulfill your purpose. And again, let's sit in these energies for a moment. And again, trust that you have made the connection. that you receive the energies, whether you feel it or not. And again, take a deep breath. Trust that you have completed the intake of the energies, and it will process even further. So if you can now shift to the third group. Just change the picture again. So you're now looking at the picture of the location of the Aronians. This can give you access into the total field of the Aronians so that you can take in those energies that are optimal. But before doing that, back to your heart. Make this a habit. Go whenever you want to connect with something, go first to your heart. Realize the light, and every time that you make a connection, you can expand. So expand again your light, because everything you've done in the previous two connections is expanding. And by reminding you to unconditionally love yourself, it will become easier. I'm not saying easy, but it will become easier. And from there, reconnect with Mother Earth, feeling again your bond with her, a bond based on love, sharing, exchanging. And that prepares you now for the connection with the Aronians, the caretakers of the element of air. If needed, look again at the picture, otherwise you can simply set the intent that you now open yourself for those energies of the total field of the Aronians that can help you to become the most optimal co-creator, the most optimally functioning being that you can be, fulfilling your purpose on Earth and sharing your unique vibration. And again, allow the energies to unfold. So let's sit in this dynamic for a moment. And again, trust that you have made the connection, that you are receiving the energies. Never judge anything. Simply be with it and allow it to unfold. And take again a deep breath. Knowing that we are going to shift now to the last group, the Devas. And there is an image now of a vortex of the Devas. And I will help you to connect with the total field of the Devas. We are not going to any specific group. It is just to take out of the total field those energies that are optimal for you in this moment. There's a lot of possibility to do specific connections, but this is what we do now. Again, you have changed, so go back in your awareness to your heart. If possible, expand the intensity of the light that you are increasingly becoming. And feel again unconditional love. And maybe you can feel that it becomes a bit easier to love yourself exactly as you are. If not, simply accept that and keep continuously doing this. Again, connect with Mother Earth. Feel that connection, feel her love. And now we focus on the Devas. Knowing that you have access into the total field of the Devas. And we set again a clear intent that we take out of that field those energies that are in this moment optimal for us, for our journey, for our development, for our expression. And trust that that's enough to allow now the energies to unfold exactly as they can and will. And again, whether you feel something or not, trust that it is happening. With this intent, something is happening. Whether you feel it, experience it or not. And now take a deep breath and slowly bring your awareness back to the place you're sitting and open again your eyes. We've gone through the story of the ancient ones as far as we know them. We've made at least the beginning of a connection. So we are now at the point that you can ask yourself, now you understand that the ancient ones can help you to understand the elements in all four existing worlds. And that it can lead to the new world. Do you want to contribute? Not everyone will directly work with the ancient ones, but you have made a connection, and based on that connection, you have a certain feeling that will make it possible for you to answer that question. But if your answer is yes, I think it's truly time to connect. Even with the simple basic things of what we have done, you can deepen the connections. Trust that if this is your journey, you've made just an important step. And if it's not your journey, it is contributing to your personal development. The Ancient Ones are grateful that you were willing to listen to